how do you actually pick the best 3D AI generator? Which one is good for 3D printing and which one is for game development? Which is faster or which one is cheaper? I'm gonna answer all these questions and give you my best top 3 for the spring of 2026. I compare and review 3D AI generators for more than a year, and I also created 3D AI Arena where we already have more than 100,000 votes. So let's get on it. Okay, so number 3 will be Hitem 3D. Recently, they actually rebranded into Hi 3D, and for some old school, you might have heard of them as a Spark 3D. Last year, they actually popped showing like extremely detailed geometry in first place. So pretty much this is exactly what I feel about them, and they do quite really cool geometry following details. If you take a look on some examples, you can see that's exactly like that. And mainly the thing is accuracy in the shapes and following the prompts. This model specifically is very good for 3D printing, and I use it for a lot of my 3D printing tutorials and still use because it gives very sharp, easy to tackle geometry, and together with combination with Blender, you can actually do a lot of stuff, and it's very good for 3D printing. But let me also break it down what's available here. So there is classic image to 3D and multi-view to 3D. This is pretty much common right now. We can remove background image enhancement, quite useful thing if you are not proficient with prompting or like image prompts. And they recently also released 2.1 version, which has a lot of improvements in terms of texture and geometry. And what's actually very nice for us guys, that it become cheaper. Yes, they reduced the prices twice for all the models. So for $10 subscription, you can do 20 textured, highly detailed models, or for $20, it can be up to 50 models, which is amazing. Before it was twice less. Okay, for the settings, we do have fast and quality, so I always recommend use quality. Then we can generate with texture or without texture, the license, and some advanced settings. I don't really use most of them, but poly count can be useful, and texture settings also can be useful if you want to make albedo without light affected, and of course PBR. Now another thing is that if you're about to create faces or portraits, you can take a look here. There is a portrait mode, and I saw a lot of examples, people creating quite nice realistic faces from the prompts, such as this one for example, created in Hitem version 2.1. Quite good quality. And then they recently added a texturing mode where you can drop your model and basically texture it with Hitem. There's this 3D relief, which I never tested, and segmentation, which is actually one of the best segmentation right now. So on top 3D AI, we do have Hitem rated as second in segmentation, which is actually very good. They do of course have API, and they do have Blender plugin, Comfy UI plugin, pretty much huge infrastructure. I do really recommend it if you're mostly into the 3D printing. You can export it directly to 3D printing software. Also worth to mention, which I really appreciate, is like free retries per each generation. That's extremely important because neither 3D AI gives guaranteed result right now. And for those who hate Blender or stuff, there is online editor where you can do some basic operations without opening Blender or any other software, which can be actually very nice. You can do sculpting, adding some details, refinement right here. Of course, it's not a replacement, but just nice to have. And if you guys do not believe me, that's totally fine. You can go to Top 3D AI and compare them side by side with any other 3D AI and decide for yourself which one actually works the best, so you can compare them in different modes. And again, I really think Hitem is very rich on details compared to any other one. Now my top 2 will be Tripo AI, and these guys, I absolutely love them, and especially in recent months. Again, things changing very fast, but right now Tripo is definitely one of the best tools. First of all, they do have very rich infrastructure and the community, and I really appreciate it. So let's dive into the studio and see what they do have here. Okay, so first there is an image generation which is quite rich. I mean, all new models such as GPT Image 2, Nano Banana Pro, and other are here. Extremely helpful if you're considering only one subscription. Now for generations, we do have HD model, which is like high poly, but not really high poly. It can be actually any poly count, and this is extremely nice. Probably the most flexible 3D AI that I know at the moment. HD model is like high attention model. It gives quite a lot of options. Ultra mesh quality, of course, recommend ultra mesh quality if you use HD model. You can generate in parts, or you can do that later. Some privacy settings. We do have texture, 4K texture, PBR. So if you remove all of them, you'll get only geometry. Then you can 4K texture, PBR. You can choose topology, triangles or quads, and the poly count. So I really recommend to use it for high poly, and then you can retopology. And again, that's another feature that you can create any model and then do retopology. Here's the example. I created high poly model of this flower, 2 million. It is quite high poly, and then I used retopology with quads with set amounts, and here's what I got. Quite nice results. And then I just texture it right here in the next tab, and here's my final result that I used with my character in one of my previous videos. Overall, Tripo offered the whole workflow with quite big flexibility. For the quality and details, I am also extremely impressed. I really like how sharp it creates the mesh. So this one can be good for both 3D printing and for game development. And for game development, there is another extremely nice thing that I'm pretty much using in all of my videos is smart mesh. So you can drop the image here, and without having high poly model, let's say we set a poly count, we can generate the model and it will be created extremely fast. I mean, it's like 5 to 6 seconds. Here we go. And look at the mesh. It is actually fantastic. Like, look, this is game ready mesh. So I'm really using it for my game development pipelines and highly recommend to try it out. From the settings, what do we have here again? Like it's image or multi-image. Again, same here. Then in the settings, we do have triangles in quads saying coming soon. So only triangles right now. And from 500 to 20,000 polygons. In our case, triangles. I'm really like the quality. When you generate any model, you have up to 3 retries, which is again very important. You can preview it in different settings, and you can also export it to printable software such as Bamboo Studio, or even do a multicolor printable file, which actually good. And of course, export in different formats. Surely you can go on Top 3D AI and test it by yourself. And for example, here we can compare it like with Hitem, and you can see both giving like quite sharp results. But I think Tripo is a little bit better and more interesting, let's say, from the back. Quite cool. There are plenty of different tests that you can compare, both texture, faces, geometry. Here we can compare face, for example. We can see that Tripo adds way more details. You can see the original prompt. Take a look by yourself, but if you decide to try it, make sure you go to Top 3D AI, since I actually have promo code for almost every 3D AI tool. So save your money, use the promo code regardless of the tool you decide to try. And what about prices here? Okay, so if we take monthly professional plan, which gives 3,000 credits, it is about 66 HD mesh textured generations, which is amazing. So, which is very good amount. And before we move to top one, let's do a small disclaimer. Those top is about foundational 3D AI and their providers. There's also tools that are aggregators that might make sense in your case. So let me recommend 2 of them to consideration. So first one, which I absolutely love, is fal.ai. It's basically all possible APIs available in one place, where you pay basically based on your actual usage. No subscriptions, just add up a credits, and you can test any new model on the day of release. Another tool worth mentioning is 3D AI Studio, which is more focused on 3D AI generators, where you can find again a lot of models in one place, such as Tripo, P1, Hunyuan, Meshi, all within one subscription, together with top image models and plenty of tools such as retexturing and stuff from different providers. features in one place, and there's also API. However, neither fal AI or 3ds Studio does train their own 3D AI models, so that's why they are not in the list. Okay, with all that said, top one will be Hunyuan 3D, and I believe most people will agree. So it's very simple. You can go to the website, create 3D models from image, multiple image, and again is up to 8 views, the biggest multi-view support, but it's not really justified for me because I don't use that much usually. 4 multi-view is quite enough. Then we have poly count setting. We can generate geometry only or geometry plus texture. But the greatest part here is that is actually free. It gives 20 generation per day. There's also Chinese website where you can also get 20 generation for free. Global version must be supported in a wider amount of countries. But it's not only about creating nice 3D assets. Generating cool 3D models and being free is not only thing that you get from Hunyuan. There is 3D Studio, which recently was released globally and for everyone. Before it was only by waitlist, and when you go inside you see roles and props. So basically there's a character flow and there's a props flow. And you can see some other examples what people create, and actually let's go inside. And here's why I absolutely love it. Not only that it's free, but it gives the best tool right now. Here you can generate 3D model and then upload your model or generated model here and split it into the components. Probably the best tool for splitting into the parts. And again guys, for free on Chinese version you can actually get 30 credits per day. Another awesome tool is that there is low poly, where you can retopology your uploaded model or model that you generate here into low poly. You cannot control exactly the poly counts, but where you can do intelligent retopology of your uploaded model or the model that you generate here. You cannot control exactly the poly counts, but you can set low, medium, high, and you choose trees or quads and actually generate. And the result is actually super nice. According to Top 3D AI, Tripo and Hunyuan are always in the top. Same goes for overall leaderboard. Tripo and Hunyuan are always in the top. And again, and the fact that Hunyuan you can try for free is simply amazing. And by the way, on Top 3D AI, there is also low poly mode where you can compare quality of low poly generation from Tripo and Hunyuan, for example. And I can definitely tell it is really good one. And as a bonus, there is also intelligent UV unfolding, probably one of a kind right now, where you can drop your object or object you generate here and create really nice UV. I mean, neither AI does this right now, so this one is really cool. Additionally, you can also retexture your object, and there is also animation and rigging. Same thing also exists in Tripo. You can animate and rig characters, but in my humble opinion, these features are not useful at all. I really recommend you to look into Mixamo or Accurig for rigging purposes instead of this AI, at least right now. That was it, guys. Really want to know if you agree with me. Drop your opinion in the comments and see you in the next videos.